He was a man of wisdom, patience, and authority, a man who had spent his life upholding justice. But in a single moment, that same justice was stripped away from him. It wasn't his title or status that mattered. It was his appearance. What happens when those who enforce the law mistakenly target someone who writes the law? This is a story of humility, accountability, and a powerful lesson that left everyone stunned. Judge Malcolm Grant was a man of principle. He believed in fairness and the rule of law, not just in his courtroom but in every aspect of life. Known for his calm demeanor and sharp mind, he was a respected figure both on and off the bench. But on this particular day, none of that would matter. It was a cool autumn evening, and Judge Grant had just finished a workout at his local gym. He wore a gray hoodie, black sweatpants, and sneakers, just like any ordinary man. With his hood up and earbuds in, he strolled down the street, his mind replaying moments from a recent court case. His phone buzzed with a message from his daughter. "Don't forget dinner at 7, Dad." He smiled, tapping a quick response. Wouldn't miss it. Meanwhile, 2 police officers were patrolling nearby when a call came in over the radio. Suspicious man in a hoodie seen walking through the area. No crime, no description beyond man in a hoodie. But it was enough to catch their attention. "There," said one officer, nodding toward Malcolm. "Looks like our guy," the other replied as they pulled the cruiser over. The flash of red and blue lights reflected off storefront windows. "Hey, you," one officer shouted. "Stop right there." Malcolm pulled out an earbud, glancing at them. "Evening, officers. Something wrong?" "Hands where we can see them," the second officer demanded, his tone sharp. Malcolm raised his hands, confused but compliant. "All right, but what's this about?" "ID. Now," the first officer barked. Malcolm's brow furrowed. "May I reach into my pocket to get it?" he asked calmly, knowing the importance of clear communication in moments like this. "Slowly," one officer ordered. Malcolm slowly reached for his wallet and pulled it out, but the second officer flinched. "He's got something," the officer shouted. Suddenly, Malcolm felt himself shoved against the wall. His heart pounded as cold handcuffs tightened around his wrists. His wallet and phone hit the ground. "Wait, what are you doing?" Malcolm asked, his calm starting to slip. "I'm a judge. Look at my wallet." But the officers weren't listening. One patted him down while the other checked his pockets. "You're being detained for questioning," one officer said. "Questioning for what?" Malcolm demanded, his voice rising. "Look at my ID. I'm Judge Malcolm Grant." "Yeah, sure you are," one officer scoffed. "And I'm the mayor." Minutes later, one officer picked up Malcolm's wallet, flipping it open casually until he saw it. The golden emblem. The official identification card with Superior Court Judge, printed in bold. His eyes widened and he went pale. I think we made a mistake," he mumbled, tapping his partner on the shoulder. "What is it?" the other officer asked, but as soon as he saw the ID his face fell. "Judge Grant," he whispered, his throat tightening. Both officers exchanged panicked glances. "Sir, I think we got off on the wrong foot," one officer stammered, fumbling with the handcuffs. Malcolm's face was stone cold as they released his wrists. He rubbed them slowly, his eyes never leaving theirs. "Wrong foot?" Malcolm repeated. His voice was calm but firm, the kind of calm that made people feel even more uncomfortable. "That's an interesting way to put it." The second officer spoke up quickly. "Sir, it was a misunderstanding. We had a report." "A report about what?" Malcolm interrupted. A man in a hoodie? He raised an eyebrow. That's all it takes, huh? The officers lowered their eyes, suddenly very aware of how it looked. You didn't ask me a single question, Malcolm said, his eyes piercing through them. Not one. Instead, you assumed, and I paid the price. Sir, we were just following protocol, one officer said weakly. Protocol? Malcolm repeated, stepping forward. Protocol is knowing when to ask questions before jumping to conclusions. Protocol is making sure you're right before you take someone's dignity away. The officers stood silent, looking like children being scolded by a principal. Malcolm took a deep breath, his tone shifting from stern to reflective. The difference between justice and injustice is just a moment's pause. That's all it takes. A moment to ask, a moment to think. The silence was deafening. The officers nodded slowly, knowing there was no defense for their actions. Days later, news of the incident reached the precinct. The commanding officer called Malcolm in to discuss it. We'd like to issue a formal apology, Your Honor, the captain said, his face filled with concern. An apology is nice, Malcolm replied. But what's better is change. That same week, Malcolm was invited to speak at a police training session. Officers from different departments filled the room, their eyes locked on him. He stood at the front, wearing a tailored suit. No hoodie this time, but his message hit harder than anything he wore. Perception, he began, his voice echoing in the hall. Perception shapes our world, but when perception is fueled by bias, it becomes a weapon. He glanced around the room. Many of you wear badges. I wear a robe, but the weight of our decisions is the same. Every moment you have a choice, to ask or to assume. One path leads to clarity, the other to injustice. The officers sat still, absorbing his words. I was lucky, he continued. I had my ID and I had my title. But I think about all the people who don't. The people who walk home from work, the teenagers in hoodies, the fathers and sons just living their lives. Do they deserve less respect than me? No one spoke, but their faces told the story. Shame, reflection, resolve. I'm not here to blame you, Malcolm said softly. I'm here because I want to believe you'll do better. Because one day you'll meet someone just like me, without a badge, without a title, and I hope you remember this moment. I hope you remember to pause. He scanned the room one last time. A badge doesn't make you right. A uniform doesn't make you just. Your choices do. Choose wisely. This story isn't just about a wrongful arrest. It's about perception, power, and the ability to do better. It's about how a single pause can be the difference between justice and injustice. It's a story that reminds us all. Titles don't matter. Humanity does. If you believe in change, share this message. The smallest pause can create the biggest change.